Hello, Hamilton families, and welcome to our meeting regarding our Hamilton math trajectory. This is an informational video to help you better understand our math trajectory throughout Hamilton and into TJ Thomas Jefferson High School. So our goal for this evening is to ensure that families have clarity around our math progression in the middle school and how it connects to high school math trajectories, including concurrent enrollment and AP courses. So our agenda for today, we will look at, we're opening intros, some math celebrations from this year at Hamilton. We will look at our Denver Public Schools math philosophy, and then we'll dive into our math trajectory in high school, specifically Thomas Jefferson High School. Look at starting in integrated 1 or 2, our placement test, our AP and CE courses, and then how do we get there? Then we'll look at middle school specific to Hamilton Middle School. We will look at the progression, and then we'll look at acceleration in grade levels and why going more in depth better than going more quickly. And then we will look at math grade jumping and why it would happen. So some introductions. I am Amber Shearer, the assistant principal at Hamilton Middle School. And we also have with us this evening Stephanie Campbell, who is a math regional specialist. We had support from Mr. John Poole, who's the TJ assistant principal, and we are happy to have Brock Strickland, TJ math team lead, with us. And so we're going to jump into some celebrations at Hamilton in 6th grade. We had over 50% of our students meet or exceed on our interims, and we had a large number of students sign up to take the interims in October to see if they were ready to skip. And while most stayed in 6th grade, the students who stayed in 6th grade have now exceeded on the interim that they had previously not passed, which is very exciting. We saw huge growth this year in 6th grade. And in 7th grade, after our first interim of the year, the gap between our Black and African American student achievement and all other students completely closed by our second interim. We have nearly 60% of our students meeting and exceeding on the interim test, and this is the highest performing our 7th graders have been in a very long time. We are very excited. And in 8th grade, we are seeing some of the most unique and innovative teamwork that we have seen in the teaching profession this year due to the pandemic, and then also some of the opportunities we've had. We've had our intervention teachers, special education teachers, math teachers, and acceleration teachers, ensuring that all students are receiving the best education for their specific needs. It's been a very unique year of individualized instruction in 8th grade. Now I will turn it over to Ms. Campbell, who will talk a little bit about our Denver Public Schools math instructional philosophy.
Thank you, Amber. So the Denver Public Schools math department's philosophy on educating students is that every DPS student is mathematically empowered as a critical thinker, decision maker, and problem solver. And keeping with that vision, Hamilton and TJ have done a lot of collaborative work together to streamline the process and ensure that this vision is lived out here in these schools. And now I'm going to hand it off to, I believe, Brock to talk more about high school math at Thomas Jefferson.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Amber. My name is Brock Strickland, and I'm the math senior team lead at TJ High. We're super stoked to have your 8th graders join us next year, believe me. So at TJ's math philosophy centers around that TJ students will be college and career ready in mathematics by the end of their senior year. Students will have the opportunity to take challenging math courses. Students will have a strong foundational understanding of algebra, and students will have the opportunity to take college level classes as upperclassmen. And I'll speak to the specifics of that in just a little bit. When we're looking at freshman placement for 9th grade math, we take into account a number of different variables. The 8th grade math placement exam, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the student's 8th grade math course, of course, and then we look at teacher recommendations as well. And so if we want to move forward with there we go. So looking at how students are placed in integrated math 1 or 2. So to have successfully completed the standards of integrated math 1 and being ready for honors integrated math 2, a student would need to be able to demonstrate proficiency on tasks related to making connections between graphs, equations, tables, and situations, in any direction of those four with linear functions, exponential functions. Students would need to solve both simple and multi-step linear equations that include the distributive property as well as variables on both sides of the equal sign. Getting a little more abstract and getting into the meat of integrated one for sure, and a high impact SAT topic is systems of linear equations. Students would need to be able to solve algebraically, solve by graphing, and also write those systems based on a situation. Students need to understand the properties and connections and differences between parallel lines and perpendicular lines, also with parallel lines as it relates to systems additionally. A little bit of experience with geometric notation, Pythagorean theorem, talking about similarity and congruence between multi-sided polygons. A big one for success in pre-calculus and AP calculus is understanding the rules of exponents, right? Understanding zero powers and when you're multiplying and dividing like bases, what happens to the exponents? What do you do with a negative exponent? And then just being familiar with the concepts of domain and range. That encapsulates integrated math 1 in terms of those high impact units of study. And so looking at the 8th grade placement test will be given to all students at Hamilton, and we at TJ are super appreciative of that. And the assessment is comprehensive of those major standards in integrated one that we just spoke about. And so the 8th grade math placement exam is 21 questions, 17 multiple choice, 3 brief free response, and then 1 extended constructed response question. So, talking about math placement, if you want to follow along with me here. So many, if not all of us big kids, experience what we refer to as a traditional track in our math journey. And that's to say we took Algebra 1, then we took Geometry, then Algebra 2, and then from there we might have branched off into different courses, or perhaps that might have been, the ceiling for us. Today, our children and students experience mathematics through an integrated track. It's a little bit of everything, a little bit of algebra, some geometry, some trig even, some statistical analysis each year. And so to that end, we in DPS advocate strongly that all freshmen, with few exceptions of course, take integrated math 1 and not skip it without showing mastery of that content. And so to that end, we also think that, taking Math 1 freshman year does not, nor it will not preclude your son, daughter, loved one from being eligible or ready for college level math their senior year. In fact, I would even advocate that taking integrated 1 your freshman year would make you that much more prepared for success in collegiate level math their senior year. And additionally, several major standards that are assessed on SAT only exist and are only taught in integrated 1. And that critical foundation in integrated 1 really props students up for success their sophomore year and junior year. For example, systems of equations. Systems doesn't pop up in integrated 2, and it pops up in integrated 3 when you do systems of equations in 3 variables, which goes beyond SAT. Rules of exponents, critically important for success in pre-calculus and AP calculus especially. Those are introduced and reinforced in integrated 1 and then are not referred back to until they're fractional exponents in integrated 2. The math department at TJ does recognize extraordinary students who demonstrate advanced aptitude, 100%, but we strongly encourage all incoming freshmen to take integrated 1 for not just success their freshman year, but for success all 4 years of high school. Because after all, math is a 4-year requirement in Denver Public Schools. And so we want students to be prepared for all 4 years. One last thing I'll add here is that the first couple chapters of each integrated sequence is intentionally designed to overlap with the previous year. In fact, our curriculum with CPM does an excellent job with this with 8th grade standards. I can tell you right now, I've had many conversations with several students and parents in August and September where it's like, Strickland, this is kind of easy. But do you think maybe I should actually be in math too? And I've said to all families, let's reevaluate when we get to December. These first couple months are intentionally designed to overlap with 8th grade to 1, help out with a little bit of summer melt. 2, help students experience some success to start off their year, because we know psychologically starting success in the beginning of the year can have positive effects throughout the entire school year. And without fail, all of those students I come back to in December and January and February say, I'm glad I stayed in. So I am asking you to trust us. I am asking you to believe that, this notion that all freshmen should be taking integrated one is best, not just for their freshman year, but all 4 years. And I can also speak that the matriculation paths through sophomore, junior, and senior year will absolutely enable your student to be taking either concurrent enrollment, AP math, or both their senior year. Speaking of, we've got AP Calculus BC, which is the equivalent of 2 semesters worth of calculus, which is a sophomore level math class, by the way. We do offer AP Statistics. Ms. Starbuck has been teaching that for several years. She's absolutely fantastic. We also have Math 121, which is college algebra, and Math 055, which technically is not college credit, as you see by it being 055, but it is a collegiate prep course that a senior could take that when they do move on to community college or 4-year college, whatever that case may be, they wouldn't need to shell out the bucks to be taking a remedial class and then not get credit for it when they're out of high school.
Thank you so much, Mr. Strickland. And now we're going to look at the math progressions by grade level. So as Mr. Strickland was talking about those different classes that are offered, we're going to look at how they align with our incoming 6th graders, and then as they go through middle school, and then as they head into high school. And so Ms. Campbell will help us with that.
Thank you, Amber, and thank you, Brock. So starting off at Hamilton, students will enter into grade 6, either going into 6th grade math or 7th grade math as an option. If your child, your student, took 1 full year of 5th grade math in 5th grade, they would be placed into 6th grade math, so that there isn't a gap, we aren't skipping 6th grade. If your child had a full year of 6th grade math in 5th grade, and then took the placement test along with that to show that they demonstrate mastery of those 6th grade standards, they would then go into 7th grade math as a 6th grader. Similarly, at the high school level, this is a smaller group of students because it is perfectly fine for your student to be in 6th grade math as a 6th grader. And as we get further on in the progression, you will see that there are still pathways for them to get to those advanced courses. And then so now we, at the 8th grade level, in 8th grade, students would end up, depending on which one of those 2 tracks they were in, they would either be taking 8th grade math as an 8th grader or Math 1 as an 8th grader. And both groups of students would still take the placement test. And the Math 1 students should also take the district final along with it. And so depending on the performance on the placement test, and for the Math 1 students, the final exam would determine whether they would start 9th grade math in Math 1 or in Math 2. Because once again, it's perfectly fine if a student took Math 1 in 8th grade and they didn't demonstrate mastery yet, for them to take it again. And I know that we're repeating standards and we're repeating some things, but in the long run, it's going to be better for your student to have extra time on those versus rushing into Math 2, because with the integrated, there's concepts that come up every year, but there's a gap within the skills. And so we want students to have a solid foundation in mathematics to best prepare them for their post-secondary choice. And so that would just follow the progression. And then the next slide, after Math 3, students have multiple options, and this depends on the high school. So specifically to Thomas Jefferson, almost everything on here is an option. And depending on where your child ends up going, there could be different options, because some of the schools within DPS have a much, our early colleges have a bigger focus on concurrent enrollment classes than AP classes. And I know our traditional high schools offer more AP classes than some of our smaller high schools. So it just depends on what your child's interested in as well. Because if your child ends up going into pre-calc earlier or calc earlier, they have to advance in their mathematical career. And if they don't necessarily want to have mathematics as a long-term goal, it might be something where it's better for that individual to get placed into Math 1 as a freshman, or Math 2 even, versus something higher, because not everyone needs Calc 3. Not everyone would enjoy Calc 3 either. So, but there is flexibility and options. And to name that, I just want to point out that students that were juniors in Math 3 honors can go into AP Calc as 12th graders without pre-calc, because the honors track in high school will allow you to get those pre-calc standards within the regular grade. So as a senior, you could still take AP Calc and have that on your transcript and take the placement test for credit. So that still is an option, even if you are in Math 1, Math 2, Math 3 in high school. I think that's everything. And now I'm going to pass it off to Amber to talk specifically about acceleration and detracking at Hamilton.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. So when we look at tracking in general, and this is a practice that happened for a lot of us when we were in school, where we would be grouped with specific students based on perceived ability, and that would be the group that we would follow. And so we're looking, at a philosophical change away from tracking as a district and as a nation and as a state. So this is a very interesting quote. Tracking does not improve achievement, but it does increase educational inequality. In light of this, the NCSM calls instead for detract heterogeneous mathematics instruction through early high school, after which students may be well served by separate curricular pathways that all lead to viable post-secondary options. And I believe Ms. Campbell showed some really excellent options that TJ offers. And so we're also going to look at how Hamilton has been detracking and what that's done for our students this year. And so in grade level classes, we are accelerating within all grade levels. And so our students who are in 6th grade math are in heterogeneous groups, which means we have students who are very high performing in math and students who have some conceptual gaps to fill. But we make sure that all of our tasks and all of our math instruction is culturally responsive. We make sure that it requires higher level thinking skills. We make sure that it promotes accelerated learning. And we also make sure that they require foundational skills. So every single math class has opportunities for in-class acceleration, where students are able to try higher grade level mathematics and go really deep into content standards, which allows them to be better mathematicians and prepares them for a high level of math in high school. So we're making sure that our 6th grade class, it really serves all of our students and has great heterogeneous opportunities for all. And we wanted to show you the results of in-class acceleration and detracking. So this year in 6th and 7th grade, we did not track into honors courses. Instead, we offered high-level acceleration and rigor for all students in heterogeneous math classes. So we're looking at the interim success this year over last. 6th grade last year on the first interim was at 40% mastery, and this year was at 67% mastery. For the second interim last year, we were at 33%, and this year at 42%. Similarly, 7th grade last year was at 14% mastery for the first interim and at 50% mastery this year. And on the second interim in 7th grade, we're at 33% mastery, and this year at 53% mastery. And so we're looking at how this in-class acceleration in these heterogeneous groups actually serves all students to a much higher level and ensures that all students are getting those acceleration opportunities and those high-level opportunities. As Mr. Strickland did say earlier, we do know that there are some students who are ready to jump grade levels or who have this really high aptitude for math and are ready for something else. And so we want to talk about how that would happen at Hamilton. So the requirements, if your student wants to jump a grade level or skip a grade level in mathematics, they must meet or exceed on the interims of the grade level wanting to be skipped. For example, if we have a 7th grader who comes in maybe from out of district, or they've really been accelerating in math on their own and have this great aptitude for math, and they want to skip straight into 8th grade as a 7th grader, in August or September, they would need to take and pass all of the 7th grade interims. There are 3 interims to ensure that they have the foundational understandings of 7th grade math in order to be successful in 8th grade math and beyond. We want to make sure that we don't have any gaps in that deep understanding. And so if that were to happen, we would make sure that those students were moved into an 8th grade math class if they met and exceeded, again, on all of the interims of their current grade level. Then they would move into a class with students in that following grade level. And so this would mean that that student would be in a mixed grade level group. We want to remind everyone that we strongly believe in your children. I love how Mr. Strickland said your loved ones. We know that they are all mathematicians, and we will strive to ensure that they are all mathematically ready for the rigors of high school and post-secondary education. We really thank you for joining us, for watching this presentation, and we welcome questions. So we will be providing contact information with this video. So if you have further questions, we do encourage them. Thank you so much for joining us. Stephanie and Brock, if you'd like to say good night.
Thank you so much. And Amber, Stephanie, thank you so much for, helping put this together for the community.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And please, Amber will share my contact info as well. So please do not hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.